Live. Today is Sunday, July 7, 2024. We're going to talk about Despicable Me 4 and how it did at the 4th of July weekend box office, coming up on LCJ Live, as well as Inside Out 2, which is still performing well. How did MAXXXINE do? And some other films as well. As always, send in your questions and your comments here on LCJ Live. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. We appreciate it. So, 75 million for the 3-day, 122.6 million for the 5-day for Despicable Me 4. That is very strong. It's another big weekend for Illumination and Universal. It's really good. Look, the last Despicable Me, which was number 3, opened to 72.4 in a 5-day of 99. This is better than that over the 4th of July extension. Rise of Gru 2 years ago, 107 million for the 3-day and 123 million for July 1 through 4. That totaled $369.7 million. Give me 5 seconds. There we go. I'm back. So, when you look at these Despicable Me movies, they're fun, they're entertaining for the whole family, and they make money. For Universal, it's guaranteed cash. And that's the case again with Despicable Me 4. 122.6 is very strong. If you look at that, if you put that 5-day total into just 3 days, that's very close to what Inside Out 2 opened to just a few weeks ago. Animation is what is keeping the box office going. Yes, there are some live action movies that have done well, like Bad Boys and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but even Garfield, which is up to $91 million, Inside Out 2, which is up to $533, and now Despicable Me 4 with $122.6 million for the start, is very strong. We're not going to get another pure animated movie nationwide big release this summer. There could be some anime movies that sneak in, but in terms of CG or hand-drawn or another form from a major studio, we're not going to get another one of those this summer. There is Harold and the Purple Crayon from Sony at the beginning of August, which I think is going to make a little bit of money into Labor Day weekend, that whole month of August. We'll see if it performs like the Ninja Turtles animated movie did last summer in the same frame, but Despicable Me 4 is going to keep making money all the way through Labor Day. Same with Inside Out 2. There are a couple other family movies, like I said, Harold and the Purple Crayon, My Penguin Friend is coming out in the middle of August, but families need something to see, and if they're not going to go to Twisters, and they're not going to go to some other movies that are coming in August, certainly not Alien, or any of the action and romance movies that are coming out, then they're going to go to Despicable Me 4 maybe more than once. I saw it the other night. I enjoyed it. I could spend 10 minutes here dissecting the final scene, but I don't want to spoil things for everybody. Fennimator 101, Despicable Me 4 was fun. Now I can't wait for Wild Robot and Transformers 1 in September. Isn't it crazy that they're going to be released back to back? You would think that animated movies want to spread themselves out, give themselves a chance to make tons of money, but Paramount's got the Transformers movie, September 20, and then Universal DreamWorks has the Wild Robot, September 27. How was it possible? And they were originally 1 week earlier, both of them, and they both shifted back each a week. How did they not figure out a way to have one of them come out in August? How did maybe one of them goes to October, spreads the love a little? We've seen these tight spaces for animated movies sometimes, and a lot of times the first movie does better than the second movie, or there's something going on there. Earlier this summer, we had If, which was a partial animated film, make a little more money than the Garfield movie. Last year, we had Trolls Band Together, which made a little more money than Wish. Actually, a decent size more money than Wish. They were released back to back. So now here we go again. You spend all this time on these animated movies, 3-4 years, for them to come out right next to each other, and you're missing out on potentially on some extra cash for both of them. I don't know. It's a little crazy, but we'll see how they do in September. Fanimator 101 also says, I do hope Despicable Me 4 makes $1 billion. It very well could. Inside Out 2 is up to $1.2 billion already. It added $30 million this weekend. It's at $533.8. When it comes to the Despicable franchise, a couple of these movies have made $1 billion. The last one, Rise of Gru, came close to that with $939. But yeah, these domestic totals on these Despicables, first one did $251, and then the second one did $368. Minions, which opened to a franchise record of 115.7 in the 3-day, totaled 336. It was a little less than Despicable Me 2 because Minions wasn't as good as Despicable Me 1 and 2. And then 3 was significantly less, only 265. And then Rise of Gru way up there to the franchise high of 369.7. So we'll see if Despicable Me 4 can beat the current franchise record of 369.7 with the total. I think it's got a shot. It will certainly do more than Despicable Me 3's 265, which I think Universal had to be a little concerned was the franchise running out of gas to go from 336 2 years later down to 265. But you have a new generation of kids who are into these characters, a new generation of families, and that's why they keep coming to these movies, and they're fun. I enjoyed the film. It's not as funny as Rise of Gru. I think Rise of Gru is arguably the funniest of the franchise, but there's some good lines, there's some good gags that are in the trailers, there's some good gags that are not in the trailers. And then that final scene, which kind of moved me, is pretty impactful for fans of this 14-year-old franchise. I mean, I remember going to an advanced screening of the first Despicable Me a week and a half before it opened in 2010. And it was the same night I was going to a screening down the hall of the Twilight Saga Eclipse, which was opening a few days later. Had a 6 o'clock screening of Despicable, 7:30 screening of Twilight. And I had seen the trailers for Despicable and kind of wondered, I don't know, is this going to be clever or what? And was blown away by it. Thought the Minions were unbelievably hilarious. I had to stay through the whole credits to see the Minions. And then I was late to the screening of Eclipse, and everyone was like, why were you late? I was like, I was down the hall at Despicable Me seeing the game-changing, life-changing Minions who were going to dominate the world, and they have. You know, a buddy of mine, Jason Black, he was on the LCJ Q&A podcast with me previewing the summer, and he's like, they run Universal Studios. They run the studio, and they do. Does that mean the franchise continues for another 14 years? With different Minions movies or spin-offs or core franchise films? We'll have to see. I don't know. I don't necessarily think the final scene of Despicable Me 4 aligns with that, but they do run Universal, and they have to keep going in some way to please the families and to please the fans. So we'll see what happens, and I've got the Mega Minions here with me. There's some pretty funny aspects of Despicable Me 4. Quiet Place Day 1 dropped a bit this weekend, down 60%, 21 million. It's at 94.4. I think Paramount thought that it could get to 100 by now. That's what the first Quiet Place did, which only dropped 34% back in 2018. It was at 100 million at this point, totaled 188 repeat business on A Quiet Place. Quiet Place Part 2 also dropped 60% back in 2021, totaled 88.4 at this point. But then the full total was 160.1. The question is, will there be repeat business for A Quiet Place Day 1, or will it continue to drop? When you've got Fly Me to the Moon this coming weekend, and then Twisters, and then Deadpool, you could see A Quiet Place go away pretty quickly. It could drop to like 8.5 million, 9 million next weekend, then 4, and then be gone. So I don't, at this point, see A Quiet Place Day 1 coming close to that 160 of Part 2. It may not even hit 150 or 140. We'll have to see, but I think Paramount's got to be a little disappointed in this second weekend. And this and If were their only 2 movies this summer. Their next movie is that Transformers 1 animated film coming in September. Joey, it will be a quiet theater, yeah, probably starting next weekend. And Fanimator 101 also said animation's been killing it this year. Yes, Kung Fu Panda 4, you have to add to that, and some other animated films as well. Number 4 this weekend, MAXXXINE. MAXXXINE made 6.7 million. Half of that came from the Wednesday night previews, one of which I attended, as well as Friday. So it made half of its money from that, and half of its money from Saturday and Sunday. So everybody pretty much wanted to go right away. That was the vibe I got at the screening I attended Wednesday, was the diehard fans of X and Pearl wanted to see MAXXXINE right away, a film I really don't care for. Elizabeth Debicki's character should be in a much better film. There's not much here. This 6.7 is higher than what X and Pearl opened to in 2022 for A24, but this opening weekend, which people had originally at 10, then they lowered it to 8, and now we're at 6, 7. Will it get to the 11.8 of X, or will it have a huge drop next weekend? This could drop to 1.5 million next weekend. If everybody went right away, and the buzz on it, and my opinion, agreeing with many that the third act is pretty bad, will people go at all next weekend? Maybe not. X made 11.8, Pearl made 9.4. I think this beats the 9.4, but A24 may have to be a little concerned that this may not beat the 11.8 or just barely beat the 11.8 of X. Did not have mass appeal like Civil War did for A24 this year. They were probably hoping for at least double digits this weekend and did not get there. Debicki deserves better. She's always dynamite. I mean, I remember her from Great Gatsby. That was 11 years ago. Number 5, Bad Boys Ride or Die. Added 6.6. It's at 177.4. Very good for Sony. Not quite the 204.4 that Bad Boys made just before COVID in early 2020, but we're close. We're inching closer to that. It'll try to make a run at 185, maybe push it close to 190. I don't see it getting to 200. But again, that open was just slightly below the last one. Just a percentage of people who didn't want to see Will Smith in another movie like this or another movie at all. So I think they have to take this as a huge win. Yes, a percentage did not go to this, but not a huge percentage, all things considered. Number 6, Horizon, which dropped 50%, 5.5 million this weekend. It's at 22.2. It actually did okay during the week for what it is and for the money that it's making. It did okay over the July 4th week stretch, but 22.2, it probably won't get to 30. Part 2 is not going to make much at all. I could see Part 2 totaling, I don't know, 15, 16, 17, unless people watch Part 1 if it's on Max the week before and some go and give it another shot. I don't even know if I'm going to give it another shot for Part 2 because Part 1 is just so, can I say it? Lame. Lame. It's just lame, which I did not see coming. I did not expect that Horizon Chapter 1 would be lame, but it is. Number 7 is Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot, a good film, a quality movie from Angel Studios, which made 3.2 million in the 3-day, but it also had early screenings on June 19th, as well as Thursday, July 4th, and Wednesday, July 3rd. So through the whole stretch, when you add it all up, it's at $6.8 million, which is not bad. If there's decent legs on it, the A+ cinema score, maybe it comes close to that 19.5 million total for Cabrini that made earlier this year for Angel Studios. Not close to Sound of Freedom. I think Angel Studios even knew, even by adjusting the title to add the Sound of in front of Possum Trot, Sound of Hope. Last year we had Sound of Freedom. I think they even knew this isn't going to be the blockbuster that Sound of Freedom was, but it's a quality movie and it's worth your time. 6.8 million is not bad. I think Angel Studios is happy with that. And who knows, maybe next weekend in the 3-day it makes another 3 or 4 million and could push 20 million. We'll have to see. Then we've got Kalki 2898 AD, which added 1.8 million. It's at $16.5 million, which is excellent. Number 9 is The Bike Riders, which added 1.3 million. It's at 19.3 for Focus Features. So we'll get to 20 million, which I guess they'll take as a win, but not an exceptional box office for it. And as of now, rounding out your top 10 is Kinds of Kindness, which added 860,000. It's at 3.8 million for Searchlight. Look, it added theaters and it dropped 45%. This is not Poor Things. Now, I mean, it's just as bad as Poor Things, if not worse. But in terms of money, Poor Things made $34 million last year into this year. It had the curiosity factor. Emma Stone in the complete lead role. Hadn't been a Yorgos movie in a while. It's only been 6 months now for Kinds of Kindness. The runtime was a little shorter. I think the 2:45 runtime, the 3 stories thing is scaring people away, and it's a terrible film. Kinds of Kindness is terrible. But look, 3.8 million, it'll get to 5-ish. Unless it makes another 500,000 next weekend. You know, it's not 34 million. It's not. So I think now that Yorgos and Emma have moved on to Focus Features for their next film with Jesse Plemons as well, Begonia, it'll come out in November of 2025. Maybe that'll make a little more money. Maybe it'll have more mass appeal. Maybe it won't. But yeah, I think Searchlight has to be disappointed. But they kind of wanted it out of the way, maybe, because they've got this Amy Adams movie in December called Night Bitch. That's the title, Night Bitch. And she's very likely going to win the Academy Award for Best Actress, if not at least be nominated. I really think so. Amy Adams has been nominated so many times. People want her to finally win, and Searchlight positioning it for a December release, theatrical, shifted it from Hulu to theatrical. She's got to be really good in it. Toronto premiere, yeah, Night Bitch, December. That's what Searchlight has their eye on for making. It could make Poor Things money for Amy Adams fans and the curiosity factor, and could get her finally an Academy Award. Right behind Kinds of Kindness, The Fall Guy added 820,000 because it was paired with Despicable Me 4 at many drive-ins around the country. The Fall Guy is now at 92.1 million. It could try to get to 93 or 94 million over these next couple weeks, being paired with Despicable Me 4, as well as Twisters, Universal has in 2 weeks. So Fall Guy getting some extra cash. It won't get to 100, but some extra money, thanks to Despicable Me 4, the Garfield movie, 500,000. It's at 91.1. If is coming close to 111. The Planet of the Apes, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, is coming close to 170. We don't have the money on Kill, which was the Lionsgate action movie, which Mike Sargent highly recommends. He'll talk about it on a new Too Fast, Two Films podcast episode coming at you soon to toofast2films.com. We also talk about Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which is a lot of fun. That's on Netflix. And our favorite Eddie Murphy films and performances. I recommend you go see Fly Me to the Moon. It's a quality film. I'd say about 80% of the movie works, including the romance, the emotion. The third act is pretty strong. There's some silly parts. Some of the subplots don't fully come together, but it's a much better the movie than the trailers make it out to be. Fly Me to the Moon. It had preview screenings last night and Friday, as well as the Regal Monday Mystery movie last Monday. It officially opens this weekend. I could see this opening to $20 million and totaling close to 100. This is the kind of movie that's going to have strong word of mouth, positive word of mouth, older audiences, and good legs throughout the summer movie season. Older audiences, I think, will go to this as opposed to Twisters or Deadpool or even the Shyamalan movie Trap and some of the things coming out in August. Theaters should keep Fly Me to the Moon in because I think it will perform very well throughout the entire rest of the summer. The serial killer movie Long Legs also opens from Neon with Nicolas Cage. Sing Sing in limited release with Coleman Domingo, A24. I'm looking forward to seeing that soon. Also, a film called Touch from Focus Features. The Lion King is back in theaters this weekend, the 94 animated classic for its 30th anniversary. Disney will make some money from that. And the Faye Dunaway documentary, which is pretty good. It's on HBO and Max starting Saturday night at 8 o'clock. New for TV, Celebrity Family Feud and a Family Feud special on Tuesday. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Celebrities returns on Wednesday on ABC. And Sausage Party Foodtopia premieres Thursday on Prime Video. And check out my conversation with the co-creators of the show at lcj.podbean.com and animationscoop.com. Hope you had a great 4th of July. Thanks for watching today's episode of LCJ Live. Go to Twitter X at LCJ Reviews, Instagram at LightsCamJackson, and the website lights-camera-jackson.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I will see you next time for LCJ Live. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.